Do rise up. Welcome to Rise Up Reactions, the show where we talk all things Falcons, NFL, Georgia sports, and in general the sports news of the day. I'm your host, Dr. Lee Denning, lifelong sports fan, and baby, it is finally frickin' frackin' Desmond Ridder time here for the Atlanta Falcons. Put out the report yesterday on injuries and just some bye week reports. Said that the news could come as early as next week, and then later on in the day was pleasantly surprised. We are finally going to get a look at Desmond Ridder and get a chance to evaluate him before next season. Now, I certainly, along with many other fans, wish that we had done this sooner. This was always going to be something of a lost season for us. Even if we did have some sort of winning record, it was always going to be a little tough to come out as the division winners. That is still very much on the table, though it's going to be very hard to do. We do have two divisional games left. We come back off of the bye and we play the Saints in New Orleans at the Little Caesars Dome. Yeah, I know that's not what it's called, but that's what we're going to call it from here on out. But, we play at the Little Caesars Dome, and then we come back again, or come back the week after, and we play in Baltimore against the Ravens, who may be without Lamar Jackson and have definitely struggled over the last few weeks to put points on the board. So both of those are incredibly winnable, especially if you consider that the Saints have a very rough rough offense right now and are just not playing all that great as well. That is a game that's full of hate on both sides. There's a lot of history in that game. But again, I think that's going to be an incredible show if Desmond Ridder goes down there in his first game. He finds a way to beat the Saints. No matter how the rest of the season turns out, no matter how his career turns out, he will immediately be put into a Mount Rushmore or a pantheon of legendary Atlanta quarterbacks. Not that we have a ton of them, but he will definitely make his mark for that list. And then, man, if he can come in and at the last game of the season find a way to take down Tom frickin' Brady, first time ever that the Falcons will have ever beat him, if that's the case. And possibly the last opportunity for a Falcons quarterback to beat him, as it looks like Father Time is going to claim its victim at the end of this season. Again, I think that it would be incredible and would be another notch under his belt, something that no other quarterback has been able to do in the last 20-plus years with Tom Brady under center, whether it be with the New England Patriots or with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But all that said, it is incredibly satisfying to finally get to see Desmond Ridder. He was playing incredibly well in the preseason, and I think that's what gave us a lot of us hope, especially seeing where Mariota struggled. He struggled in the real world to hit players deep. I think I said it on the second game we had. I think we played the Jets in preseason game 2, where he missed or he underthrew a wide open Kyle Pitts. That was going to be a problem for us. I called that week 2 of the preseason, and I was right. He has struggled mightily. Now, again, I want to say thank you to Marcus Mariota. He is very likely to get cut next year because he is going to carry $16.5 million worth of cap if we keep him. He is not going to be our starter next year for sure, no matter what happens. And very likely we're not going to keep a $16.5 million backup, especially when it's only going to cost us $2.5 million to cut him, and we can save $14 instead. So Marcus Mariota has likely, unless somebody gets hurt, played his last down as a Atlanta Falcon. And once again, he will not complete an entire season as a quarterback in the NFL. He is not hurt this time, but he just is showing why he never was really given that chance, even when he was healthy, and why he was a healthy scratch for other teams. So again, he played admirably for the position. I am incredibly grateful that he even has us in a chance to possibly make the playoffs this year. It's a long stretch. We need to win every single game from here on out, and again, they are all winnable. But Ridder gives us a better chance through the air. I would say our bare minimum through the air, our bare minimum floor now is probably 170 to 185 yards, whereas a ceiling before was close to about 170 to 200 yards with Marcus Mariota. I just think Ridder has more of that accuracy and deep ball potential, and he's going to be more of a gunslinger in some regards. Again, this is also likely going to be his team going into the 2023 season at the quarterback position, because almost no matter what, we are not going to end up with a top 5 selection if we win any games going forward. And I certainly do not want to just go into games hoping to lose at this point. There was once upon a time where I would have said, yeah, we're already doing bad. Let's just tank out the rest of the way. I've had a little bit more time to mature since that. Had a conversation through Facebook Messenger with one of the guys I would call an acquaintance, Josh Harris, who was former Falcons player, when I was asking him several years back. And, his comment to me was basically, players are going in to win. This is not something that's thought about in the locker room. They're not trying to lose games. They want to win. I think I actually may have offended him a little bit, though that certainly wasn't my intention. But he basically said, guys are in there to win games. They're in there to try and get contracts for the future. They are there to try and build a winning culture. And the motto for Atlanta for a long time has been brotherhood. They are there in Atlanta to try and build brotherhood. So, again, Josh, thank you so much for giving me a different perspective on that from the players. It's an incredibly different perspective as a fan when you're watching a franchise that is struggling and you want to do better. But, again, it's not all about the draft. Sometimes building a culture is important. I certainly think Arthur Smith has done that. It seems like he's had a plan with some of our draft picks. Richie Grant didn't really play a whole lot in season 1, has come alive and been one of our top 5, even though you could say our entire defense needs a little bit of retooling, but been one of our top 5 defensive starters regularly this year. I think our defense would have been a little bit better if Casey Hayward had not been hurt for half of the season. He's another guy that I look for us to possibly cut next year. He was only on a 2-year deal. His contract will be $7 million. It's still not terrible, so we could keep him. But if we get rid of him, it does free up $5 million. He's only going to be a $2 million dead cap for 1 year. So, again, between Casey Hayward and Marcus Mariota, we could free up somewhere in the neighborhood of $19 million additional dollars. And again, we're already going to be in the projected second best cap position next year. So I think we are probably going to move on from some guys that have a little bit higher salary, a little bit older players. Though Casey Hayward, I think, would be interesting to keep. If we find some younger talent that we think is equivalent, it wouldn't surprise me if we continue to. If we move on from Casey Hayward at that point. But again, guys, I am super excited to see Desmond Ridder play. I wasn't going to make this video until next week, but the buzz is there. I made a short yesterday about Desmond Ridder and it being Ridder time, and that just didn't feel adequate enough. It's truly Desmond Ridder time. I am looking forward to it. I was not a fan of drafting him, and I think if we were going to tank, that it would have been more worthwhile to not have a rookie quarterback sitting on the bench. But we did take him over a guy like Nakobe Dean, who I still feel like I probably would have rather had there for linebacker depth. But, again, there are other things the Falcons could have done in the last 2 drafts that I think would have made more sense. I have had an unpopular opinion from last year's draft where I think we should not have drafted Kyle Pitts. I think we should have drafted Micah Parsons, J.C. Horn, Penei Sewell, or even, I think I said Micah Parsons, Patrick Surtain. I think any of those guys would have been a better core piece to our defense or offensive line that we could build around, and then we could focus on skill positions later. Now, again, Kyle Pitts, I don't think we've fully unlocked his potential. I would have liked to have seen Desmond Ridder playing earlier this season since we did have a rookie quarterback, and the reason I would have liked that is because I wanted to know what those connections would look like. Now we don't get to see Kyle Pitts and Desmond Ridder throw to each other. We're going to get to see the Drake London-Ridder connection, which I think this is a good move for Drake London, and I think Drake London will have a lot more fantasy value next year from a fantasy football perspective. I will talk more about how I'm doing in fantasy overall probably next week. I think that's going to be one of the things that I do with us being on a bye. But guys, again, super excited to have Desmond Ridder time here in Atlanta. Even if he is not great, we will have an answer going into next season. I think the likelihood that he fails in these last 4 games, given the situations that we're going into, are pretty low overall. I don't think we're going to go 4-0. I think that is a pipe dream, but it is certainly a possibility. 4-0, I think, puts us in the playoffs. Pipe dream again, but I think most likely we're going to go 1-3 or 2-2 just because we do have a little bit more of a tenuous defense, and we have a rookie quarterback who's going to be going on the road twice against teams that are expected to make the playoffs. But guys, that's just what I think. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you to all my subscribers, the new ones, the old ones. You guys mean the world to me. It's been a great experience so far. We are 2/3 of the way through the season, and it is finally time to see what the Falcons are going to look like for the future. Rise up.